Hello, I am Ilona. I grew up in a rural Latgale, which is in Latvia, and we have a lot of birch trees there. And I personally have a connection to the birch tree. It always felt like it's some kind of important. And this tree probably even connects continents and not just Europe. And even it could connect us to some of our ancestors, including Neanderthals. Because yes, actually, Neanderthals are ancestors, at least of Europeans and Asians, not in a way that modern humans evolved directly from them. But yes, we have their DNA because of this interbreeding which was happening between Neanderthals and modern humans. And archaeological evidence tells us that Neanderthals were already using birch trees. They were extracting the star from birch more than 200,000 years ago. So, in order to do something like that, you have had to understand how all this works. Yes, even I don't understand what this is. So, that was already some kind of chemistry and not accidental or something, but this was something what they did to achieve something. Another thing, people in Northern Europe specifically collect birch sap, and they still do. This is something also similar what is happening in Canada, so it's not like something very original specifically to Europe. And if we think about this birch sap, do we know if Neanderthals collected it? I guess no, but can we imagine that they did? Because why not? Uh, Especially in Europe and especially at the time with long, cold, dark winters. First thing in the spring, where you could get vitamins and minerals, was this birch tree sap and maybe even some other trees. It is available for around a month. It depends from year to year, maybe, but you cannot get it all year long. But also, you can preserve it and you can even drink it in summer. But in order to do that, you have to ferment it. Fermentation means what? It can turn into alcohol. Another interesting thing which I want to mention, yeah, probably coincidence, but yes, this Latvian word "sula," if you read it backwards, it is alus, which is beer. And what is beer? It's fermented drink again. And also about alus, yes, there are these words, like English ale is related to this same word. Another thing, of course, birch bark as a paper. And we don't know how far back in past people used it, because when we think about hunter-gatherer stone age, we usually imagine people with a lot of stone tools, but there are things which could not just preserve till modern days. We just cannot find these things. And most likely people back then had a huge variety of different stuff, not just made from stone, including birch bark. And it is hard to say if they used it also for some kind of drawing. What we know, people did left drawings in cave on cave walls. Most likely they did draw also on some other surfaces. Can we imagine a person from that time drawing with a stick in a sand? I guess we can. Most likely they did that. But can we find these kind of drawings? I mean, impossible. I don't know. There are some interesting findings when where imprints of foot of feet found from who knows how long. But these kind of findings, this is something so. So many things have to happen in order for something like this to preserve. Yeah. But for more recent, but still quite ancient, there are these letters on which are found somewhere like in Novgorod, like these letters and a lot of other things, and specifically about from this child, 7 year, probably 7 year boy named Onfim, I think, Onfim, maybe, with his drawings. And there is also another, even in North America, they did had birch bark scrolls, and somewhere in Mongolia and this some kind of manuscript type. You could also use birch tree bark, not just for writing or drawing on it, but also another thing which probably ancient people didn't know, but birch has this kind of like antimicrobial properties. People made even this kind of shoes and also containers, baskets, and everything. And in these containers, you could also preserve some kind of food. And another important thing I want to say about a birch tree is sacred grow idea is this is not something very Latvian or Baltic specific. This is something really very ancient. Even in Africa, you can see this a sacred grove. So how I see this is something connected to our really hunter-gatherer past, where some certain parts of forests were like these no hunt zones. And that maybe needs a different video for that. Why do I think they exist? Because I also noticed interesting thing how in Latvia, for example, if you compare to some other places like in England, where I can see the difference. So in Latvia we have cemeteries specifically in forests. About the birch, in Latvia there is this bērnu birs, svētbirs, and in other places. Usually it was oak tree and maybe some other trees, ash trees. But in Latvia it was specifically a birch, which was chosen as this very special tree. As you can see, birch tree, and specifically in northern, I would say, Eurasia, not just Europe, and even North America, maybe. It has a really very long history. It is very much connected to our ancestors, through our ancestors to us. And it has not just practical uses, practical meanings, but also very spiritual, sacred meanings. Thanks for watching and goodbye.